keep in mind that you are showing which gap in the literature your research will fill. So, how and where do you start? With research history. All research has a history that provides the precedent for further work. This is the starting point for your research. You need to decide which literature is most pertinent to your review. Conduct a library search, both online and using hard copies. Survey university databases, abstracts, and indices in books. It is advised that you make an appointment with a librarian for a research consultation. Prioritize your examination of material type in this order. Begin with articles in refereed international journals. The research published in these materials are recent and widely disseminated. Because they have been refereed, experts in the field have provided its researchers with significant comments for improvement and fine-tuning. Then, proceed to books or chapters in edited books, followed by articles in national refereed journals. Next are conference papers or research reports from government, committees, and professional organizations. PhD dissertations and MA theses provide excellent material for your review as well. Finally, peruse websites and articles in non-refereed journals. As you do your reading, constantly check the course requirements and consult with your supervisor to ensure you are on the right track. We now turn to organizing a literature review. Davidson and Tullidge, 1999, page 94. Summarize the literature review as follows. The goal of the library search is to assemble what other researchers have said about your topic of interest and to distill this into a coherent statement. This involves a lot of reading, note-taking, paraphrasing of arguments, summarizing of the key findings, and extracting the most critical quotes. What you come up with at the end of all this should read much more like a short essay than simply a jumble of disordered notes. As you would do for the essay, the literature review should be well structured, and we will get to this in a while. It is best to ask your supervisor for the required format, as this varies across disciplines. Synthesize the information into a cohesive whole. By cohesive, we mean that the ideas fit together clearly in a way that readers can easily follow. In other words, the ideas are arranged in a logical manner. Let's first look at the basic components in a literature review. These are general background information, theory, review of the literature on the instruments, and summary. Let's look at general background information. Initially, introduce or discuss the topic, key concepts, and terms relevant to your study. Describe the scope and organization of your literature review. Then, review past and present literature in relation to your research purpose. And finally, clarify the purpose of your study. Then, outline relevant theories that impact your study. Even in groundbreaking research or new fields of research, there must be some foundation upon which your work rests. You may find that not all literature relates directly to your topic, but integrate key points from related studies and make the appropriate inferences. Whatever topics you include, it must bear some relationship to your topic. Your literature review should also include a review of literature on the instruments. As the phrase indicates, review the literature on the instruments or measures you will use as part of your study. You must present evidence that supports your choice of instrument over those not chosen. Include reliability and validity estimates and a description of samples that have received the instrument. At the end of your literature review, include a summary. The summary is a clear and concise account of the current state of knowledge on your topic and the instruments used. It should provide a sense that you have thoroughly examined the background to your study and thereby endorses the decision to research on your topic. Now that we know the basic components in a literature review, let's look at how to organize the information. First, arrange your review by key themes or findings and use headings and subheadings. Let's look at this example. Broader communication issues, likely causes of obesity, proposed public policy changes to reduce obesity. The literature review ends with a summary and then outlines the research aims. Under each heading, there may be further subheadings. Let's look at the example further. As we can see from the outline, information from your sources are grouped in a logical order. This will allow you to structure a coherent argument about the research done thus far, in the process showing the gap or gaps in the literature. And this, in turn, leads to your research question and provides justification for why your study should take place. Once you have organized your information into a logical order, the next step is summarizing the information you have and synthesizing them. Let's look at how we summarize. Here is an example of a summarized work. A study by Smith, 1998, showed that gender differences exist online. Now, this is too short a summary. It does not give an indication of how or why the study was conducted. A better summary is as follows. Smith, 1998, investigated the existence of gender differences in chat room participation. By measuring the proportion of responses made by male and female participants, taking into account the amount of time spent accessing the chat room, findings showed that males were more likely than females to post messages, 67% and 33% respectively. This evidence supports the view, and so on. This example shows us how the researcher summarized existing work.
But this is
In summarizing, we answer the following general question. How has the topic been studied? What has been found? Which issues have the different authors highlighted as a result of their work? How have the key terms or concepts been defined or used? In summarizing others' work, it is good to include some of the following features: the participants' characteristics and the criteria for their inclusion, the sample size, location of study, type of study, whether it was an experiment, interview, or survey, the nature of the task, what was done, and details of tests used, findings, whether numerical and or descriptive, and how the findings relate to your research question. However, when summarizing the information, make sure you also synthesize things. But what does it mean to synthesize, and how do we do this? Synthesizing means not just listing what the different researchers did and what their findings were. Rather, identify the issues highlighted in the research and organize your literature review around these in line with the aims of your research. You might also highlight differences and similarities in findings across the research and identify areas of consensus among researchers. It is imperative that your voice guides the discussion. Summarizing existing research does not involve simply writing a separate summary paragraph on each work. For instance, if you read 3 separate researches done by 3 different authors, for example, Brown, Smith, and Aikens, do not write a separate summary for each. Rather, guide the discussion by using your voice through showing how the studies relate to each other, then showing how the research is your own research project. So, for the research by Brown, where is your voice here? What is the point you are making about the topic in this paragraph? Which issue does the research highlight? Then, where is your voice here in the research by Smith? What is the relationship between Brown's research and Smith's research? Then again, when you summarize the research of Aikens, where is your voice here? What is the relationship between Aikens' research and that of Brown and of Smith? How are all these linked to your research question? In this way, your review is organized as an argument that flows. In other words, the information you have gathered from various sources is synthesized to form a coherent argument because your voice has guided the discussion. Here's an example of a literature review that synthesizes information from various sources. The cause for concern lies in the fact that advertising targeting children is a high-growth area, as is Children's Buying Power, Eagle and the Brain, 2001. Marketers target this youth market, hoping to establish early trends of brand loyalty and influence parents' buying decisions, the Bro, 2002. Furthermore, whilst children may influence their parents' spending habits, advertisers recognize that children also have their own money to spend. Strasburger, 2001. Let's look at another example from a literature review and note how the writer synthesized and critiqued the existing information on the chosen topic. Television advertising may influence children's nutrition practices, particularly in regard to food requests, purchases, and consumption. See, for example, Hutchinson Moynihan, 1998, Cox and Story, 1994, Borzikowski and Robinson, 2001. Story and Faulkner, 1990, state that television exposure may impact on actual eating behavior. Similarly, Cox and Story, 1994, note that television is such a ubiquitous medium that it is difficult to measure its behavioral effects. Their report concluded that it was not possible to prove that food advertisements aimed at children cause poor eating habits. Whilst these and other such studies report a positive correlation between television viewing and food requests, purchases, and consumption, there is limited conclusive evidence to support a direct cause and effect relationship between the messages portrayed and the actual eating patterns of children. Note how the first part of the paragraph summarized and synthesized the studies previously done. Then, in the final sentence, the writer's voice came through as the works were critiqued. In synthesizing information from sources, you may use the following points as guides. Compare and contrast different authors' views on an issue. Group authors who draw similar conclusions. Criticize aspects of methodology. Note areas in which authors are in disagreement. Highlight exemplary studies. Highlight gaps in research. Show how your study relates to previous studies. Show how your study relates to the literature in general. Conclude by summarizing what the literature says. Earlier, I mentioned that it is essential that you also do a critical evaluation of the information. This, in effect, is critiquing the information you have. It is the ability to point out strengths and weaknesses in previous research in relation to your research topic. It is moving beyond a mere description of the research towards analysis and evaluation. Aside from your own critique, you may also use other writers' critiques in your discussion. So, how do we critically evaluate existing knowledge? First, move beyond description towards analysis and critique, as I mentioned previously. Have a look at this example. Smith and Jones, 2004, analyzed the content of advertisements on New Zealand television during a one-week period between the hours of 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. with the intention of examining the nutritional,